You're looking at Northwest Africa. Steady streams of water have been redirected toward this part of Africa constantly. Right now, Africa is suffering a major migration of millions of people leaving the drought zones headed toward the northern part of that country, created by changes in the climate. And those changes are brought to you by an intense solar corona that's heated the entire solar system. You see the very top of the screen is Greenland, and you see how these circular systems get drawn up into the tails of leading systems, creating incredible movement in the upper level moisture. Upper level moisture usually is lighter than lower level moisture, but not anymore. Now we're seeing lower level moisture not existing almost at all. And that leads to accusations of manipulated weather, artificially controlled weather. But constantly for the last year and a half, Northwest Africa, Morocco, Spain, Great Britain have been getting steady streams of water. There is no drought in those locations, and it makes people theorize that these are going to be safe zones and places that the elite plan on using for agriculture and for redevelopment of new infrastructure. We switch over to the North Pacific. We see a double system moving from Siberia waters into the Alaskan waters. The dual system, the one trailing, is basically invisible. But what we noticed about these dual systems is they create a pressure wave that moves south. That pressure wave acts like a broom, like a giant broom, and you push the water out of the way, and these things travel half the distance of the globe. Now you go over to the right of this image, and you see that massive circular system that's off the coast of Vancouver, actually south of Vancouver now, and drawing and directing water into Northern California, a place that sorely needed the water. You're talking about some of the worst fires in California history occurring in Northern California, Oregon. So these places are getting rain now from that circular system because the water is so rapidly moving, because the clouds are rapidly moving. We're not seeing deluge, we're not seeing flooding, but we are getting misty, drizzly rain and wind. Now in the center of your screen, you see Tropical Storm Nicole. We tracked that patch of water from the Caribbean up into the Gulf, over Cuba, where it conjoined with a hook that was forming. The hook was almost invisible, but now those two systems, one was a dry low pressure and the other was a warm, typical, really quite typical tropical wave, to form suddenly, like overnight, a tropical storm. We go down to the south and we see what I've been trying to show you for a couple weeks now, but there it is, lower left. Look at that perfect sphere. I mean, these exist in the southern hemisphere. They spin clockwise. They are so perfectly spherical, and usually they're back to back. There's two of these, and they control the jet stream in the south. They pull water away from away from Australia. They redirect the southern equatorial belt of water and the southern jet stream are all changing because of those spirals. Look how perfect this is. That's a very powerful system that is basically has no water in it, and it's just impossible to heat water without evaporation. So, but they're not heating the water. If you're talking about artificial manipulation, they're heating the ionosphere, creating low pressure uplift. Looking at Canada, you see down low that spiral system, how it just mows down water on the back side, ejects water on the front side. This system has been around so long, it has grown very big, and it actually has more moisture On the backside, then 90% of the systems. Because the water is fast moving, we get that misty rain and winds in Northern California and Oregon right now. And if this system parks, hey, we may get rain for a while, but I doubt that it will park because everything is so dynamic and moving. So this will be interesting to see what happens. It is bringing colder air from the north down to the south. That's definitely what it is doing, that circular system that's just south of Vancouver, off the California, the Washington Canadian border. Very, very strong rotation. That eye of that rotation will come and go and form, but generally upper level systems do not have an eye because there's not enough water and the air pressure is so thin. Now look at to the right hand in the East Atlantic. You see another system that is round, spherical. The pressure waves create rings. The differences in temperature creates color differences that also show up as discs or rings around that system. That's actually grabbing a ton of water off the equator and sending it north. Zooming in on Tropical Storm Nicole, me and you, we tracked this development. We tracked the wave of moisture coming up from the Caribbean. That wave of moisture looked more like a typical wave, a tropical wave, than most of these systems. But what it did do is it combined, as it drifted north, it combined with the hook and the spiral system that was sitting just above Cuba, a dry system. So now we have incredible low pressure being charged up with warm water, and poof, overnight we have a tropical storm. The discernible eye had already been there in the hook system that was just north of Cuba, and we showed you that 2 days ago, that hook and the patch of water that was drifting north. Well, they've combined now, and now this system may strengthen to a Category 1 hurricane. The thing about it is, if it parks, it will flood. And where is it headed? It is headed to the greatest concentrations of nuclear power plants in the United States. There's so many in the area that this storm is headed towards. And this area has been hit by hurricane after hurricane after hurricane, from the south, from the east, from the west. I mean, somehow the water just keeps, coming through the panhandle and into the east coast. There are so many nuclear power plants there. And see, what else does this show you? This is mostly the Atlantic. South America, a lot of moisture over South America. And we see that huge spiral system off the west coast of Canada and the United States, spiraling up, ejecting water at the 6 o'clock position that's headed up towards northern USA. But the backside is relatively dry. But if you're caught right in the middle of the system, you're going to get rain, misty rain, high winds, but you're not going to get the deluge of water because the clouds are so fast moving. That system is spiraling. So, the places that are going to get lots of water are the places that are parked underneath that river that it has created. So if that storm parks, you will have flooding along that line of water.